Welcome to Defense Dollars, a weekly update on the deals, contracts, and sales from around the international defense industry. Let's dive in. First up on Monday, France and Ukraine announced they had reached an agreement for the embattled nation to buy 100 of its Rafale fighter jets in the coming decade, according to the AP. The Rafale is the latest generation jet from Dassault and joins the Gripen as part of Ukraine's growing fleet of European-made warplanes. A few weeks ago, Ukraine signed a similar agreement with the Swedish government for a similar number of its fighters made by Saab. The deal between France and Ukraine also includes commitments to purchase other weaponry, including drones and ground-to-air systems, along with armaments to be mounted on the French fighter jets. No price was named for the purchase agreement, which French President Emmanuel Macron called a new step in defense relations between the two countries. Next up, speaking of aircraft sales in Europe, the Netherlands and several NATO partners announced recently they will abandon plans to buy new airborne warning and control systems, also known as AWACS, from U.S. maker Boeing. The Dutch Ministry of Defense said that following the United States' decision to move away from buying E-7 Wedgetails, it would also look elsewhere to update its fleet. At stake was the sale of 6 Wedgetails to improve the NATO AWACS core, currently a fleet of 14 aircraft based in Germany. Those jets will reach the end of their lifespan in 2035, according to the Dutch MOD. The U.S., for its part, said it would end the Wedgetail program earlier this year, citing survivability concerns, cost increases, and a desire to move towards more space-based systems. Over the summer, it said it planned to simply cancel the acquisition of the E-7. That raised prospects for Swedish-based Saab, which makes the Global Eye, an AWACS alternative that mounts radar and other sensors on a Bombardier long-range business jet. Saab's CEO said the company was seeing huge interest in the Global Eye from NATO countries. But is the American E-7 program dead? New reporting from Defense News' Stephen Losey this week showed that the bill reopening the government, signed recently by the president, contains $400 million in funding to keep development of the Wedgetail on track, despite the Pentagon's efforts to kill it. So, is it gone? We'll be tracking it closely. And on the subject of the government shutdown, with civilian employees back to work at the Pentagon, the Department of Defense released a number of backlogged contract announcements covering a wide range of systems. Some highlights from the recent data dump: drone maker Anduril Industries was awarded $50 million for development of its Altius 600. The Altius is an unmanned loitering munition that can be launched from land, sea, or air, and is already in the running with the Army for a greater contract. Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin also picked up a $78 million deal for space vehicle development, with work to be done at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. That's expected to be completed in early 2028. Also in the realm of space, Modern Technology Solutions in Virginia was awarded an additional $111 million for development of space-based interceptors, bringing the total of its contract with the Pentagon to $227 million. That work is set to be done in Huntsville, Alabama. And finally, RTX's Goodrich arm, based in Massachusetts, was granted $197 million for production of the MS-110 Airborne Reconnaissance System. That's an order for the reconnaissance pods, ground stations, engineering support, and a range of associated costs. And one more quick one before we go. President Donald Trump on Monday said he will sell advanced F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia.
They've been a great ally. They've got to like us very much. Look at the Iran situation, what we did in terms of obliterating, we obliterated their nuclear capability. Yeah, I will say that we will be doing that. We'll be selling F-35s here.
The president made the statement just ahead of a visit to the White House by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Past administrations have been wary of such a move, motivated by a drive to keep Israel as the dominant military force in the region, and the concern that China, which has close ties to Saudi Arabia, will somehow obtain the F-35's technology. President Trump's statement came in the hours before we filmed today, so we'll keep a close eye to see if the story updates. And that wraps up your Defense Dollars for this week. Join us on Cheddar.com and DefenseNews.com for more stories like those.